Hi everyone, hope you're doing well. I woke up to see that I got an email this morning from the Blasphemous team letting me know that the first aesthetics build for the game had basically been released. For those who don't know, I made a video covering Blasphemous before it was actually had ended its Kickstarter, and now we're able to play our first little snippet of the game. So I've played through the aesthetics build, and I thought I'd just share my thoughts about it. First off, the game has a very cool style to it. I really like the art style, the sound design, the animation's very smooth for this sort of game, so I'm a fan of that right off the bat. They do impress upon the player that this is an aesthetics build, and they really do mean that. There's only 3 enemy types. There's no pickups, there's really no narrative of any kind at this point. And that's fine because they said it's an aesthetics build, so I've got no problem with that. One of the devs on the Discord server for the game has released a little bit of information in terms of the next couple of releases, which is good. So the question was asked, when and what kind of prototypes will you release? To which he responded, currently 3 big prototypes are planned with additional monthly builds afterwards. So we've already got the June one, which is the aesthetics prototype, which was released in July, not June. Then September, which will be a narrative prototype focused on determining the combat mechanics possibilities, and hopefully by narrative they mean a bit of story, because as I said, there's literally no story at all in the aesthetics build. And in November, player's progression prototype focused on the narrative layer. Okay, so that might be it, implementing and trying all the mechanics related to delivering the game's story. So hopefully by November we'll have a better understanding of how the game will actually be in closer to its full release, which is quite a while from now actually. Plus, those of you with keen eyes might have noticed that the avatar of the dev in the Discord server is Alvina, leader of the Forest Hunter Covenant from Dark Souls. So those who were saying that this game has no influence from Dark Souls, nothing at all, I mean, the head dev has a Dark Souls character as his avatar. I'm pretty sure we can put that counter theory to bed now. And yeah, this game definitely does have some Dark Souls elements, as well as their obvious Spanish background, which has had an influence on it, which is great. Now, in terms of the game itself, the controls are pretty simple at this point. It's just, you've got a dash button, an attack button, and a jump button. There aren't really any plunging attacks or anything like that right now, but you can duck and swipe, which is helpful. Unlike Dark Souls, there's a lot of platforming, which makes up quite a bulk of the game. When you're not fighting someone, you're probably going to be platforming, which is cool as well. And in the aesthetics prototype, you sort of go through 3 areas, each of which will be shown here. So we've got the starting area, which was just kind of like a barren kind of landscape. Then this one's a more snowy landscape, and then the final landscape's more of a cathedral-like style, which is cool. In terms of the enemy types, there's the one flagrant, I think it's called, someone who's basically whipping themselves and has like whips to attack you with. Then there's these other guys with skulls for faces who basically try to hurl a large candelabra at you. Those guys are kind of fun to fight because you do have to dodge past them in terms to get a fight at their back. And then the final ones, which are probably the most interesting, are these giant bell creatures carrying a bell on their back, and they basically try to pursue you basically anywhere where there's a tough platforming bit, so you'll have to stop, attack them usually to continue without being knocked off the platform. It did feel, and I'm going to be really careful with my criticism here because it obviously is an aesthetics build. What it means, it's trying to show visually a little bit of what the game will be like. It did feel a little bit bland, so I really do hope that they try to get some pickups and some progression in there soon. Obviously, if that has to come in November with that prototype build that they described, so be it. But I do like the promise of this game. It does have an identity to it already, which I really like. It's not just a derivative of any kind of popular dark fantasy series that we might be accustomed to. All up, the aesthetics prototype only took me probably around 15 minutes to get through all the way, so I really hope that they expand on that in terms of stuff to do. in the following builds, because there were quite a few areas which looked like they might have led somewhere in terms of like maybe an eventual item or an encounter or something like that, when it really just kind of looped back on itself, which, you know, was cool from a level design point of view, but there wasn't really any drive to go explore at this point. So when they do decide to implement items and stuff, it'll be interesting what they decide to actually put as rewards to the player. Now, when I made my initial Blasphemous video, I did talk about the stretch goals that they had. So I hadn't been looking at the Kickstarter, and they blew past quite a few of the goals since last time. I think when I made my video, there was like $183,000 pledged. Then it ended with over $350,000 or $330,000 pledged. So since then, and there's a nice little glitch happening on the screen there, they've decided to use live instruments for the soundtrack, which is cool, an alternative skin for the character for backers, which, you know, is what it is, pretty cool, I guess, and then animated intro and ending sequences, an extra pixel artist, voice acting, and summonable NPCs. Again, guys, if you're saying this game has no Dark Souls influence, like aesthetically or gameplay wise, like, I mean, like just look at it. I mean, you know, is what it is. And they've still got one more up there for the survival mode, which will unlock at $350,000. I kind of think that should be in the base game, but yeah, whatever. I'm going to start being more critical of this game as time goes on, because I do really want them to deliver on what they say they are delivering on. The aesthetics build does get a little bit more interesting towards the very end. I was kind of hoping it would be leading to a boss fight. Maybe that was a little bit too hopeful. But I mean, the sound design changes, there's like more chanting, it's more bassy. It does have a lot of anticipation when leading up to what in the final build might be a boss fight. So I really hope that they maintain that for the future, because it does like have this great, really like brooding aesthetic quality, as you can see here. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. It did take me a little bit by surprise. I was hoping that it would have a little bit more than that, but you know, it is what it is. We can play it now, so that's cool. In other news, I've actually been reading and watching a lot of Berserk lately, which I've never actually watched before, and running a Guts build in Dark Souls 3, which has been a lot of fun. Yeah, really loving Berserk, so if any of you would be interested in seeing me make a video about it, I'd be more than happy to do so. In the meantime, I am also writing part 2 of the Ornstein story video that I've been doing, which has been a lot of fun. And also I'd like to do a huge shout out to my Patreon supporters as usual. And this is for you. And thank you as always, and I will see you next time.